Greetings.
Yes, yes.
Hey, can you see me and hear me okay?
Yeah, man, I'm seeing you.
Okay, cool. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Addis. It's nice to make your acquaintance and meet you. And thank you so much for taking the time to do the interview for Reggae Vibes. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no problem, Give thanks for having me.
All right, well, cool. I've been a big fan of yours for some time now, easily since you released your debut album in 2014,
Mhm.
In My Father's House. And as far as your famous legendary father goes, well, I mean, King Tubby's meets Rockers Uptown is an album that I'm sure, like many other people, is one of many albums that made me fall in love with dub,
True, true.
music. Yeah. And so
Okay.
often when I talk to people about dub, and that's an album that usually comes right to mind as one of my go-to favorites, that I always have ready to go. And along with others, East of the River Nile, and many others that I could cite. So I guess I'm just really excited to speak with you today. And there's quite a lot of ground to cover, mostly because you've been so active, basically releasing music all the time. A lot of
Mhm.
really, really good music, both albums and a lot of different, Irie singles.
True.
But the giant news has to be the blockbuster news for all the Addis Pablo fans, has to be this news that you told me about just a day or two ago, which
Mhm.
is that you're about to drop your sophomore album. Is this true?
Yes, man. So after, a good while, it's been 8 years since the release of In My Father's House. We've been working on this project for a while, over time, of course, and it does different things happening and all these different things. But finally, we're able to really present it, and it's a joy to bring it forward, from that stage to this final stage now where everybody can get to consume, and listen and then full joy the product. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay, well, very cool. And um, uh, as I said earlier, in my father's house, I don't know if I don't know if I said this earlier, but in my father's house, kind of had a very, not an unsubtle reference to your father with the title.
Mhm.
The title is also loaded, not only is it a reference, I feel, to your dad, but also is loaded with biblical significance. Um,
True.
um, and so, what is the album name? You've told me, but I don't know if it's okay for you to tell the people the name of the new sophomore album is going to be what now?
Addis Pablo Melodies from the House of Levi.
Excellent. And so, I was giving this a lot of thought because you just dropped this information on me a few days ago.
Mhm.
And, again, the title is loaded with a lot of biblical significance. What is the significance of the title of this new album? Songs or melodies from the House of Levi. What is the significance that one should maybe take?
Well, is once again it's kind of a few references because my dad was one of his nicknames was Levi in terms of his under the 12 tribes kind of things. So some people that was one of his, just like a Pablo and different, like a nickname.
Wow, I didn't know that. And I was
Yeah.
so actually leads me into my next question, because
Mhm.
I was going to ask you, because in your first album, In My Father's House, if you were to continue that biblical line, it would be there are many mansions.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And so a question I was going to ask you straight at the top, because I was very interested, your dad's music is so spiritual. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to ask, there are many mentions in Rastafari. I'm familiar, with the Bobo, and the Nyabingi, and
True.
also the 12 tribes. Was your father part of the 12 tribes then?
Not really, not necessarily. He was a Nyabingi, but the 12 tribes names, like usually it's just if you're not a member, so if you're born, whatever month you're born, they're gonna give you like people are born in March or June is Levi, August, Isaac, Simeon, so on and so forth. So he wasn't a member, so to speak, but he definitely was. He was in all houses. I wouldn't say he was in bubble, but he was just a full Rasta, you know. Not a bingy, but he was with everybody. He interacted with all mansions, if you want to say that.
Would it be accurate to say that many musicians are the large part of musicians, are they from the 12 tribes, or is it not possible to really say?
I would say there are a good amount of musicians that pass through 12 tribes. Some of them are members more than others, but because 12 tribes had like the Jollof sound system and all these different aspects, so it wasn't just meeting for the exclusive 12 tribe members, in other words. Like it
For
was
sure.
just, so they would have dances, they would have different music in the studio and stuff. So they were just doing various projects and just activity that would involve musicians who might not necessarily be 12 tribe members, but they associate with it.
Thank you. Respect for that.
My dad,
Now,
my dad was a Nyabingi though, as far as his, where he, if you want to say his mansion or where but he was just a
I'm
Rasta.
glad to, yeah, I'm glad to know that because I'm not sure if that's well known. So yeah, I
Not
appreciate.
necessarily, because of course my dad's a person who didn't do that many interviews and stuff, but
Yeah.
for those who knew him close and people like from the Rasta community, they know him from Bingies. Like I grew up going to Bingi and he was going there
Wow.
from he was young, so.
Wow, respect. Now, as I said at the top, you've been releasing a whole heap of new music through your Sons of Dub production company with Ross Jammy, and through the Rockers International label your dad founded, and also with many straight to the internet releases that I found just from Googling you up, on YouTube and through reggaeville.com. You can find many new Addis Pablo releases. And as time allows in this interview, I want to ask you certainly about a few of those, because a lot of them come with some very cool official videos. I know you have a lady who you work with by the name of Tizzy Tokyo, who is doing a remarkable job making videos for you.
Definitely.
But before that, I really want to spend a little bit of time, if it's okay, to discuss, in my opinion, what is an amazing 8-track EP. Right after we scheduled the interview, I Googled up Addis Pablo. If you do that, it seems like every other day there's something new to see. If you put it in your music streamer, you might want to check. In fact, I'm going to ask you about it. Just 3 days ago, I saw you release a new single, so I'll be asking you about it.
Yes.
But like I say, I found out about this Bright Star. I guess you could call it an extended play because it's an 8-track album, and is a very interesting album. It came out only a month ago, so March 18, I believe, was the release date on Bright Star, and I've been listening to it on repeat since it came out. And I mean, the first thing that must be said about it, like I say, is that it's just so wicked. And is a quality album, starting with the album cover, which truly has some cool, meaningful kind of iconography, similar to your first album cover. And for people who haven't seen it yet, it's a cool drawing of you. You're kind of, floating in the middle of the galaxy, and you're among all the planets, and you're kind of sitting atop your melodica, and on the right side of the album for Bright Star, it's got the name of Bright Star, and then the letter A has been replaced with the Star of David, which I always find to be very interesting because, I wear the Star of David. I even have a tattoo of the Star of David. And so it has a lot of significance to me, to see that, being Jewish myself. And so, and it's one reason why, I feel I actually had this conversation amazingly and blessedly in a yard with Chinna when I was able to go to Jamaica, because I talked to him about how I felt that as a Jew, and being Jewish, that I feel like I have a very strong connection. I feel like it's one reason why I feel very at home with a lot of the Rastafari beliefs, and frankly with the people. because I think that there is a strong connection. Many Rastas call themselves, being the last tribe of the conquering line of Judah. And then, of course, we have the 12 tribes of Israel. And just a long-winded way to say that I really appreciated the album cover. And did you come up with that concept and design?
Well, in parts, the design was a collaboration between the producers, which is Evidence Music out of Switzerland.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we definitely went over it, together. It was, back and forth, and we finally kind of came up with, and that was pretty much a result as far as the text, because, we try to go over each aspect from the lettering to the symbols. And even if we don't design it, like in an artistic way, we do have our input on what we like and what we want and the direction, most times with artwork.
Like I
Majority,
said,
especially with this one.
when I listen to your dad's work, and I feel the same listening to your work, frankly, too, this is very spiritual music. How big of a part does Rastafari play in both your personal life and in the music that you're creating?
It's like hand in hand, because really and truly, it's a way of life, as you were saying, and it's how I was raised. So where my dad and say my mom grew up, what they say, like a more Christian background, where the parents were. I grew up, both my parents as Rastas, like my uncles, aunties. You could say like a good 40 to 50% of my family is like Rasta living, so that's pretty much the way of life I knew growing up and remained, that's straight true. So it's almost unaware, type of thing. It's like you're not really aware until you interact with other people and you realize that. But that was just the way that we.
It's natural.
Yeah, pretty much natural. Yeah,
makes sense. Now, the official video that people can watch on YouTube of the album's title track, Bright Star, is very cool to watch, and of course to listen to too. And in the video, you can see your dad's famous record shop on Orange Street in Kingston. I haven't made it there yet, but I'd love to go.
Oh no, man! Next time you come to Jamaica, I know, man. You have to visit, man. That's a
man.
Street. Not only Orange Street, because we're just going over some stuff with that. Beach Street is one of the. It's just like you have Trench Town, so Beach Street is pretty much the same. It's the same level of Trench Town in the sense of the historic, musical history, Jamaican history. There's people from all walks of life that rise up from that vicinity of just where the record shop is, whole downtown Kingston, but just that strip of Beach Street.
Yeah, I need to check all that. I haven't made it. I need to check it all out. And I not too long ago, I interviewed Flabba Holt, and I saw him I in preparation, and then I also talked to him about it during the interview. Was that he actually has this great video? You can find it on YouTube, where he's singing his great song, Gimme Gimme, I think it is. He's right in front of Orange Street. He's right in front of your dad's shop.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a wicked video.
I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, Fab and all them man always pretty much every day. And that's what Beach Street always was the place where you'd find every artist. It's like you could say the Hollywood of music, like you would say every artist, musician, producer.
All the creative.
Everybody, the whole scene would be there,
Yeah. Now, I know that the video is so tight too, obviously because it shows you playing your melodica behind the counter at the shop, in the video. So it's just it's super cool. And can you speak for a moment? I know that there have been some efforts. You and your sister Isis, have taken some efforts, I believe, to kind of preserve this site as a historic landmark. And also, I understand, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's now, I'd love to go to it too, another Rockers storefront, I think in Brooklyn.
You're correct on both points. For one, the record shop, we've been working on that since an early age, of course, but in the recent years, we did some redevelopment of it just to the structure was kind of old, and we had to just refurbish it and all that type of good stuff. Give it a more solid concrete. So pretty much what we have now will last as long as Jah provides. It will be there, So
respect. Nice.
We've been working on that for a good while now, and it's going well. We're just always still trying to add more and of course connect more with the official bodies of Jamaica as far as the government and tourist people to kind of bring more attention to the area, not just the shop, but the whole, for example, when persons like yourself come there, you want to make sure even though people always do come there, but we want to facilitate that as best as possible.
Well, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent because this isn't actually written. I didn't write this down, Addis, but it is an issue that's dear to me. And I want to raise it just because you mentioned that. And actually, amazingly, had a back and forth with it's so strange. I kind of hate social media, but kind of have to be on it, I know you mean. Yeah. And so I had a back and forth with the mayor of Kingston actually recently. I believe his name is Williams. Mayor Williams. In any event, what happened was, I'm just going to be frank about it. I don't see why not. A woman had posted, they were basically making fun of and kind of taking shots at Soja, who had just won the Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album. And a lot of people in Jamaica, including, I guess, the mayor, was very upset that this white band from the United States had won the best, or reggae best Grammy Award for the reggae album over, I guess, other Jamaican artists were in the running. Jesse Royal, I know, was in the running, and a few other people. And so what happened was, I basically made a point to the mayor that no one who cares about really too much about reggae music really cares too much about the Grammy Awards, because we all know that it's just not really an award show for people who really love reggae music. And what I've always thought is that there should be a Reggae Hall of Fame in Kingston, a giant Reggae Hall of Fame, kind of like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that exists in Cleveland.
Of course. I'm not even going to cut you, but not even going too much into your point, but really and truly, these people, we understand how it could look, how people could view what happened with Soja and how it could look, it's easy to see how people could. But outside of that factor, if you're talking about the government and certain people in Jamaica who there's not really much effort being made to preserve it, like just for example, my dad, whoever else it is, the good thing is we're here to represent him, but for those many of who some of their youths might not know about them or don't have interest or didn't have children, and it's countless. I don't want to list names, but I can There
are too many names
to list.
To mention.
There's groups like Israel Vibration, a group who was affected by certain polio and certain things and still touring up to this day. Like, these things are things that people deserve to be. There's not no regular. That's not regular. That's not their story.
The school children in Jamaica should have a place where they can go along with the tourists, but also school children in Jamaica.
Educational, yes, to learn about the heritage and the culture, which is still being it's been created from that time, and it's still being created. Because I said these people are still working, burning spirit still out there towards. So it's time to do something while a lot of these greats are still with us. Because as we know, unfortunately,
we're losing a lot.
So while they're here, it would be great for them to see something happen for the music, And
the last thing to say about it, what I want to make sure just to say about it is that the mayor had pointed out to me that, again, this is an exchange I had with him, that part of their strategic plan, I guess, is to have some kind of wall murals. It's called like a walk of fame. And essentially they're going to have a bunch of murals, and that's a good idea. I don't disrespect the fact that they're going to have a bunch of beautiful murals to respect the reggae artists in Kingston. And I also want to say, I know that there are various museums in Kingston about music, Jamaican music, but not on the scale that's necessary and not as the government should. Because as you say, and the last thing I'll say is like, all these guys, all these people, for example, we'll just mention the Soul Syndicate. The Soul Syndicate, those guys, Earl Chinna-Smith and Santa Davis and Tony Chin and Fully Fullwood, they should all have like their own wing in a museum. They could have their own wing in the museum just for that one group, to talk about what that one group did in Jamaican music history.
Come on, man. The Soul Syndicate. As I said, when we start going to stuff like that, it's easy because we understand the music and having the appreciation and love for it. It's easy for us to like say these things because we know who they are, we know what they deserve, and even more.
Right.
The only issue that we have in what I was saying to one of my good brethren the other day is that what we realize we have to do, and which is the same thing my dad and all these generations, all these great ones out of Jamaica had to do, is they had to make effort, because if they were waiting on these people to help them in achieving what they did, it would have never happened, you know? So
true, you have to seize the power yourself. And scientists, the great scientist who I want to give thanks for to scientists for connecting me with you, has often said to me that the reggae musicians really need to band together and do something themselves on this issue. And you know, if they did, and if there was a museum of the sort or some kind of place like that in Kingston, for example, on the waterfront, it could have its own venue where you could have performances, and you could have your own real reggae award show, and people would really respect it. No one would care about the Grammy reggae anymore. It would all be about the reggae that's given out in Kingston, the award.
Yeah, because to go back to what you're saying, when you think about one Grammy award for the entire reggae industry,
you
have dancehall,
you have
reggae, you have classical reggae, you have new reggae, you have lovers rock, you have UK, and that's big. That's a big US reggae now, which is like the Soldier and these people, and it's so much different styles of, just like with any genre of music. There's not
wide.
So to give one award for all these people, obviously, is gonna be unfair. Obviously, somebody's gonna feel like somebody didn't get who deserved, because there's only one award for all these hundreds of great artists, you know. So it's gonna naturally be, it's gonna always be controversial. It's gonna always be something where somebody feels like
so well said, Addison. I thank you for saying that. Now, just to take it back to the music.
No problem.
I have to ask about track number 3 on Bright Star. Especially as you light up your spliff, I have to ask about track number 3, because In the Dance is a song about the herb. And it features Spliffy Dan, who's an artist I really wasn't as familiar as I need to be. I know he's worked with you before on previous works, but for some reason, this song, In the Dance, really caught my attention. It's really an herbsman song, and it really kind of hits. It's the combination of your melodica and the lyrics, and then Spliffy. And in the tune, Spliffy sings, "I want to tell you I feel Irie because me drink it in a tea." And then he goes on to sing how basically it's part of his daily menu. And then the killer line for me, is, quote, give me the good sensei. Don't you know my name is Spliffy?" And I thought about it. I don't want to be too childish about it, but I thought about this, and I said, you know, if you hang out with Spliffy Dan, you better have some good sensei, because
it doesn't make sense.
It's Spliffy.
That's his name. That's what it's about, you know. And it's true. It's true. It's true facts, you know.
Now I know that Spliffy. I know this just because I was so curious about it after this song, and getting to know this Spliffy Dan a little bit. That he was an artist who worked with your dad in the 70s and had some hit songs, or had some songs.
Some big songs, yeah, man. So Spliffy Dan is somebody that not only worked with my dad in that time, they also grew up together. So he's somebody who knew my dad from It was a schoolboy, in a school short days, short days in the sandbox. So they grew up together and eventually worked together. And he's somebody that was there just like an uncle throughout my life. And from growing up, I know Spliffy. So to be able to work with him was a great. It's just a matter of like bridging the gap, pretty much.
They're cool, because then and then there was an article that was just released on December 31st, so I guess on New Year's Eve, in the Jamaican press, and it was titled "Spliffy Dan Makes Full Return to Music." And and basically it's about how Spliffy has decided to pursue a music career full time now. And I thought this was so interesting. I had to ask you about it. Is that it said that after this was because in the past, I guess, when he worked for your dad, that he would split his time between being a singer and being an auto mechanic. And
No,
apparently,
no, that's the thing. You're right. So as Spliffy said in an interview, he's a very good mechanic. He knows all about cars and all them type of things. So that was his career, you could say, for the most part. Even though he had a career in music, he was doing them simultaneously. And as we know, sometimes music doesn't always, it takes a while to grow, in a sense of whatever the earning and surviving from it. So his car work was how he pretty much,
and
maintained his
your dad,
life.
the article made it seem like your dad would give him some shit, essentially give him some stuff about, hey, you should be concentrating on the music. Is that
No,
true?
it's true because why my dad would do that? Because he knew what Spliff had in terms of the sound and
Yeah.
what as an artist, he knew the value of it because he was a genius at identifying artists. Like majority of the artists he worked with was people who, are younger, usually younger for one, and people might have not really considered or had amongst them and not really took advantage of. So he was a person that was a great talent scout and identifying people that would have sounds that would be very like to the world.
Well, he has a very unique voice, Spliffy Dan. And
That's what I'm saying.
if he's making a full return to music, I am quite sure, and I hope the people even listening, producers and such listening to us talk right now, start thinking about using a little Spliffy Dan, because when you watch him in the video too, I mean, we're talking about a roots man. This is like
What's up?
somebody from an OG. Like, you need to have Spliffy. If you're going to talk about weed, I don't know,
It
at
only
any
makes
time.
sense. Now I'm split for them, like I said. So that's the same way we see it, bro. And really and truly, as you said, even if he didn't get the chance in that time, the fact that he's making the effort now,
Yeah,
people are
respect.
really serious because the sound that Spliffy has is a sound that a lot of people even try to imitate, but that's him, that's his authentic. So he's one of the originators. He's been so
Now,
that sound that he has is very unique, as I say, and rare. So
now that whole album, Bright Star, is the whole thing is awesome. But there's two more tracks that I really want to just ask you about briefly, which is, the first is a track number 5. It's called Lights. It's a very unique song where your melodica is paired up with brother culture, and there's a lot of interesting lyrics. It's kind of focused on light, and it's kind of mystical. It's focused on the number 12. And it's interesting because we're talking about like the 12 tribes, and
so try to zero. Yeah, it's true.
and so does that sort of a references going on there?
Well, with the 12 song, that song kind of came out a bit before the project. So that
Yeah.
one was produced by Evidence Music, and I wasn't necessarily there for the recording of that one, but that was kind of before we actually started the project. But
Yeah.
definitely, I think it's pretty much you summed it up, from what because I listened to it the same way, and that's what I got from it as well,
It's very cool. It's a very unique song. And then the last song I have to ask about is track number 7. And this features one of my favorite live performers. He's a Los Angeles staple.
Yes.
And of course, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Ranking Joe.
Great Ranking Joe.
And
Yes, man.
I've seen Ranking Joe at the Dub Club in Los Angeles. Yeah, he is. When you see Ranking Joe show up at the Dub Club in Los Angeles, you have to get excited as a fan, because you know that he's going to get on stage. Whoever's there is going to let him get on stage, and
True.
and no one can roll their R's. No one can do that. He can create a whole beat off of just his rolling an R. And
Yeah, no man, them one there, no one is legendary. It's greatness.
so how have you always known him? How did you connect with Ranking Joe to do that track?
Well, I've somewhat known Rankin Joe, not directly, indirectly, of course, growing up in the music, but that connection kind of came through Evidence as well. So they had a working relationship with him. But
Okay.
yeah, that track is definitely one of my favorites as well. How his whole energy, effort, and I've always respected him from,
Yeah,
Rankin.
Ranking Joe, he is really just amazing. Now, I want to return to the music in a minute, to some of those singles that I talked about at the top that you've released. But I want to, at this juncture, if it's okay, Addis, is just ask you a few basic biographical questions. And also, because it's such a unique instrument, that hardly anyone plays. I want to ask you a little bit about the melodica generally, and especially because, you know, any source you look at, whether it's Wikipedia or, you know, something more sophisticated, if you were to Google this up on the internet or go look in music books, you will see that your dad, Augustus Pablo, you know, he was the one who popularized the melodica as an instrument more than anyone else in the modern era. I think
True.
one can say. So concerning your background, though, first, Addis, just so that your fans can just get to know you just a bit better. I read that you grew up mostly in Jamaica, but that you also spent a significant time, I believe, in New Jersey as well, because that's where I think your mom is from. And actually, I understood from seeing an interview that you did that that's actually where you were born.
Yeah, so I was born in New Jersey, Red Bank, New Jersey, to be specific. But yeah, my mom is American, born American and
You said
raised.
Redback, New Jersey?
Red Bank, like our Red Bank.
Oh,
Yeah,
Red Bank. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
bank. Yeah, so that's I could call like Central Jersey, I guess.
Yeah.
More in that section. But yeah, my mom's from there and I pretty much was born there, but raised in Jamaica from pretty much from birth, like a baby, up
Yeah.
until high school. Like went through high school in Jamaica, a few extra classes and stuff like that. So probably 17, 18, I've spent more to start coming back and forth to the States more often. I was always traveling from early, like in the summers and stuff, back and forth to see
Back
family.
and forth. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
later
did
on,
and
kind of moved there.
if it's okay for me to ask, how did your dad meet your mom? Was your mom into music too? And did your dad meet her while touring? If your mom is from New Jersey, how did they meet?
Yeah, well, that's like, yeah, so she was actually in Jamaica
Oh,
at the time, and they met, I would say, of course, I don't, early 80s or what exact year, the 80s,
yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
I was born 89, so before that. And yeah, they
And,
met at a performance, if I'm not wrong. And from there, yeah, exactly. So it
and
was,
you mentioned, since you mentioned your high school years too,
yeah.
and I know I already mentioned to you this before the interview, but I have to ask because I saw that you went to high school, I believe, with Jesse Royal.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, high school that we went to is called Meadowbrook High School in
And
Jamaica.
did you know the Small Axe in high school? Were you guys friends at all?
Um, isn't the high schools aren't that big, in terms of classes. Even if you're not friends, so to speak, close, but we did know each other. Yeah, of course. We weren't
Did
that far. We didn't hang out
well,
every day, but we did have mutual friends, and yeah.
well, just because I met him, I interviewed him once, and he has so much charisma. Was that how he was in high school too? I guess I could see him as being a very charismatic figure in high school.
Uh well, yeah.
Yeah.
What I could say is he started at that school later. He didn't start with us from like seventh grade, so he
Yeah.
kind of started maybe it was 10th grade or something like that. So I can't say I spent that many years at high school with him to see him in full full character. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
Now
can yeah,
I know
I can
you
kind
were.
of see
Go
kind of
ahead.
remember him like that a little bit still.
Yeah. Now, I know you received a lot of musical training, of course, from your father before his tragic passing, and that from a very young age, you were exposed to musical instruments and to home studio equipment
Of
um,
course.
and so forth. But did you also receive any formal music training in school? And if not, do you think that's something that you might ever do?
Well, no, I never received any formal training. What I did have was a good friend of mine who went to high school with me together. Actually, we started doing music together, Ramon or Derizio. So he had actually went to like classical training to a certain level, a few grades up. So he had that formal training. So he did give me a lot of advice as far as playing
Cool.
certain stuff, and I would go around other musicians, of course, like
What was his name? What was his name again, Addis?
oh, Ramon.
Ramon.
Yeah. We
Okay.
call him Shamba. But anyways, yeah, he had formal training as well as others I've been amongst as musicians, kind of give you advice or show you certain more theoretical stuff. But from outside that, it's just pretty much been self.
I
You
mentioned I
know,
mentioned I mentioned Earl Chinna Smith earlier. My understanding is that he has also been an influence to you but not only just an influence. I might just be making this up, so you correct me if I'm wrong. But he also hasn't Chinna also been helpful in terms of learning how to play the melodica?
Well, definitely. What Chinna is one of the key people that I went amongst as a younger musician, who of course I know from my dad's, being a good close associate and brethren of my dad playing on many a great songs together. So he was one of the places where not for just me, but many other musicians go amongst and learn their craft, whether it be artists, guitarists, bass players, just
Yeah.
musicians, singers and players of instruments. So many you'll find many of I've seen, I can count name countless names who've come there and, been amongst Chinna, learning or
Yeah.
just practicing.
That's the mecca to be over there.
Yeah, so I've been exactly. So I've been there from an early age, probably 16 or 17 amongst him.
And pick
And
up a lot of things, I would imagine.
definitely. And he always facilitated me, of course, because of the close connection between him and my dad. He would, either show me musicians who could help teach me some stuff, or if somebody was there that was
Nice.
so he always definitely been a helpful.
Your dad's style of playing the melodica has been described as a Far East style. And you said before that Japan is one of your biggest markets. And of course, every reggae fan, more than once, I would say in their life, they should Google up your dad performing at Japan Splash '86. Yeah, yeah, it's a remarkable performance, and to watch your dad connect with the crowd there in
Audience.
Japan.
True.
Yeah, and with the Soul Syndicate, backed by the Soul
Once
Syndicate.
again, the great Soul Syndicate.
Yeah, on YouTube, and in the entry on the internet for the melodica, if you go look at it, and also in an article that's called History of the Melodica, that's on the indie pop scene website, it says that the melodica is popular as a tool that's used in music education in Japan and in other parts of Asia. And I was curious if you had any additional insight as to why the melodica is so well received in Japan and Asia, as opposed to say in the US and other countries. How come, is it something about Japanese music and other Japanese instruments perhaps that makes the melodica so appealing to them?
Definitely, I would say that. And also the melodica, because I can say a few different things. The melodica has origins in Japan, like they've been making it as early as either the same time as Horner was making it in Germany, which was like the early 40s, I think, 1940s, so 1930s. So they've had, this instrument has been in their culture from early to similar to Germany.
Yeah.
Also, outside of that instrument, they have a lot of sounds which sound similar to it, like the pitch of the melodica and that high.
Cool.
Yeah, so I definitely think it's the similarity. Also, the fact that it's instrumental music, and as we know, a lot of Japanese people don't necessarily speak English.
Wow.
Some of them do, but it's easier to relate. To me, in my mind, it's easy to relate to a rhythm. You relate to lyrics as well, but no, you don't even have to hear the lyrics. You're just listening to sound. So
such a great answer, Addis. Thank you, because I was really kind of curious about that. And for me, the melodica, it puts me in such a contemplative, immediately when I hear it, it's like I'm immediately in kind of a meditative mood. I don't even have to have any herb. I'm immediately feeling in a meditative mood, when I hear the melodica playing, and maybe more so than any other instrument, I kind of feel like that. I guess I just wondered, it hits so especially in dub. It kind of fits in dub. There's something about the melodica, the way that it sounds, and I guess I wondered, why do you think that it's especially in dub music, the melodica is such a great compliment?
Well, yeah, as I said, the melodica as an instrument, is a sound. Even for me, as the performer of it or player of it, it's, I guess, it's soothing for one, and it's dealing with the mental, like, to me, not just the mind. And
wow,
I could even say, because of the high pitch of it, the high frequency, and it's like it touches certain parts of your body where it penetrates,
wow,
literally, like actual physically, and also that's in esoterical sense of it, or that type of sense, but also the
Wow.
physical frequency
On
going,
the Honer website, which everyone mostly associates, I think, with harmonicas, it says, quote, that invented by Honer in the 1950s, the melodica combines the advantages of a wind instrument with the versatility of a piano accordion.
True.
And then, which makes absolutely no sense to me, I'm hoping you'll be able to explain this to me. Honer says, this makes it a popular beginner's instrument. So I was hoping you could shed some light on this for me, because when I see footage of you and your dad playing the melodica, it looks far from easy. That doesn't look easy to me. It looks complicated. You have, not only are you using your mouth, you have a whole piano that's
In front
tiny.
of it.
So
Yeah,
it looks
true.
very complicated.
Yeah, you have a good point. So I mean, why I think they use it for the children to teach, in the sense that they consider it for that, is because of the size of the board.
Yeah.
It's easy for them to, like, versus you take out the big, 66 keys, or the big proper classical grand and stuff where it's so wide. It's a way for you to learn the rudiments of melodies and scales and such without, probably for small hands, like little children hands kind of. So
You can
I think maybe that's why. But
yeah.
what you're saying as far as what my dad did with it, because other people played the melodica as well, and the style and the way he played it was different than them, in the sense where he made it like talk, he made it become a voice, just like a singer. So doing that with it is not easy, So to learn from it is one thing, but to take it on that level is definitely something which requires a
So
lot of focus and devotion and time and
so
all
this is my last question about the melodica generally, and it's kind of a selfish question, and I hope you don't laugh too much at me, but because I told my family this, I told Tony Chin this, I told scientists this today, that I have decided I'm going to buy a melodica. I'm going to get my own melodica, and I'm going to try to learn the melodica, because I'm so inspired by preparing for this interview to watch you, and then also listen to your dad. I feel like this is the instrument for me, and so it seems like it's not too expensive to buy, and I want to ask you then, so and for anybody who's kind of like me, intrigued by the melodica, and maybe wants to learn how to play it, any kind of just general advice that you could give me once I get the instrument, what should I do so that I could maybe learn how to play it? What's some just basic tip?
Well, as with any instrument, what I always was taught and heard from musicians learning is that you learn the scales. So basically, if you buy simple piano book, most time you can get them online now. It's easy to get stuff online classes, and learn the scales, whether it be like C scale, C major scale, and from
Yeah.
there, the chromatic scale.
My wife is taking piano lessons, so she
Yeah,
should
so
be able
that's
to.
I mean, come on. She also, as I said, why they said the melodica is good for learning is because it's the same keyboard in a smaller frame. So
Yeah.
whatever theory that you'd apply to the piano is the same. It's the same on the melodica. The difference in the melodica now, as you said, is the wind factor. So you're able to do certain type of playing that you could do on the piano, but you wouldn't get that frequency and you wouldn't get the effect, because you can
Yeah.
use wind control to get different.
Unfortunately, I don't think that my wife is as excited as I am about me playing the melodica, but I'm going to work on her a little bit.
No one, she'll be happy, man. It's an instrument, like I said, it works, it's very effective. So it calms and it relaxes, and it's good.
Addis, I'm definitely going to get one now. Addis, already we've been talking for quite some time, and I want to thank you for being so generous. I'll only ask you just a few last short questions, if that's okay. And also, I want to suggest to you that we do a part 2 continuation, if you have some time later in the year, that if we could, please do another interview, because I especially would like to have some time to listen to your sophomore album,
Sure.
Melodies from the House of Levi, and be able to ask you some questions about
Definitely.
it.
Yeah, man, I really will get that to you properly so you can send, because I can say just to before we even get further, that I do appreciate how you carried out the interview in terms of going into the songs. People do that sometimes, but not everybody, you can know, because I'm sure you watch a lot of other journalists and stuff. So I do appreciate the effort and that you made into.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. And yes, no, please do when you're able to, please do send me the tracks for the new album, and I will go, and then we'll set up a time to maybe talk about just focus on that new album. Now, Addis, as we head towards the end of today's interview, I want to point out to everyone who reads or watches this later, as I did already, that they really, in order to keep up with all the new music that you're releasing, if you have different music players, like I had, for example, Deezer, and I was shocked. I go in, I was like, wait a minute, I just need to make sure that something new hasn't. And then I was like, wait, he just dropped another song.
Yes, yes.
So, it was on 420, which is the famous smokers holiday. You
Yeah, for
released
Father
a
G.
wicked cool single. It's called Father G Livocation with Rebellion City Productions. Can you just briefly tell us about this collaboration, and who is this Rebellion City Productions? I mean, it's a super cool track.
Yeah, so the Father G Livocation is a track which was done in tribute, or no, it's a project actually. It's a single, it's one of the singles from a compilation of a rhythm compilation.
Yeah.
And it was done in tribute to Father G, who was our New York, I would say radio host, a very,
Wow.
yeah, he's a very strong person in the New York reggae community for years, power of
Wow.
reggae.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, last year he passed, he passed away, and this project was pretty much done in tribute to him. He had a lot of people he helped. I can't even listen. I'm just one of the
Oh, I'm
many
so
people.
happy I asked you. I'll have to look up Father G later and find
Yeah,
out
so
more about him.
power of reggae. That
Wow.
was his brand. This is his brand. Power of reggae, POR.
Cool.
So
Wow. Now,
the rebellion sounds, or rebellion is pretty much a production which is done by Bubba Realms, and they created the tracks and all that stuff. And he was also very, very close, like business partners with.
yeah, well,
with
people, I'm definitely gonna look into that a little bit more, and also people should definitely check out that new track you just released like 3 or 4 days ago. Now, just at the beginning of this year, you released a track with another very creative official video on YouTube. It's called Hills of Zion. In fact, I sent it to my whole family today when I said, "Listen, I'm gonna buy a melodica, so here's what it is. Take a look at this video." But in that video, it looks like you're walking down the streets of Kingston, but it could also be Brooklyn at one point.
Right. So now going back to earlier, we're talking about the shop. So that was the location we had for the new Rockers International shop. Unfortunately, we had to change locations, and we
Oh,
haven't really secured a new location as yet due to some issues with the building and all that unfortunate stuff. But that was in and around Bushwick area, Brooklyn, that we filmed that video. So you're
oh,
right, it
okay.
was in Brooklyn,
Yeah,
UK.
cool. And is also you're playing your melodica in front of some really awesome looking, like they're kind of like Egyptian hieroglyphs. Is that
Yes,
also in Brooklyn?
that's around there. That's from an organization. Oh man, I'd have to tell you the name of. There's a group. It's one of those African American, they call it, not fully religious groups, but you could say like quasi-religious groups. So they have those temples or different buildings around, and that was one of them in the not far from the location of the store.
Yeah. I love and I just respect so much how that Hills of Zion video closes, where you see you're kind of, you're in the building, and you see your dad's famous, it's kind of like your dad's famous label, and then you see it's a cut to the vinyl east of the River Nile. Well,
Sure.
as I said at the top of the interview, that is also one of just your dad's classic albums that every
Yeah.
reggae listener should have in their collection.
Straight
Um,
up, true.
yeah, and there's just this feeling. There's a feeling, for me when I watch this video and talking to you today, and listening to your music. There's just such a strong feeling of a continuation of your dad's legendary legacy. And as a giant fan for many years now of your father, and now for your music as well. I just want to thank you so much for you're carrying on this tradition of mastering the melodica. And I'm sure that Addis, that we'll be, touching base soon again. Like I say, I'll love to talk to you once I've listened to the new album. And the last thing I want to ask you is there any final message or words that you'd like to convey to all the many, fans of both your father and yourself? So we're talking about a lot of people. So, is there some message that you want them to know about the music you're creating and also your father's legacy?
Mm. Yeah, well, all I would really say to them is give thanks, for one, for the years of support from the early 1970s up until this day, and that their efforts keep us being heard, because the message that we create, as I said, is special, and it's for the world, but sometimes many are called, but few are chosen. So the ones that do relate to it and do, listen to it are many, of course, but outside the whole billions of people in the world, for everyone out there who does appreciate or listen by the vinyl, stream, like, whatever you may do, we just appreciate it and we give thanks, and we always will continue to provide this sound and push it out there as long as, forever, rockers forever.
Rockers forever. Addis, thank you so much. It's such a joy to connect with you, and please stay safe, and we'll be in touch very soon, man. Take care. It's very nice to see you, man.
Come on, brother. Bless up.
Bless up, man. Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Bless.